Sid, you've got to disagree with Xavi a little bit there, haven't you, in the sense that he's blaming the defence, but the final third, we spoke about it before, seemed to be really lacking any sort of quality.
To be honest with you, Dan, that was partly what the question was getting at. And he talked about the fact that they played pretty well. And as I said to you, sitting at the end that they attacked in the first half, I did feel that after the goal, there was a momentum building. There were things happening, but they weren't really clear chances. And so that's in part what I was asking. Did you think it was just the finishing? Because he seemed to be implying that the only thing they didn't do was score the chances that their football said they should have done. And then, of course, as you heard then, he turned it back to the defensive side of things. He said, no, our problem was defensive. But I would agree with you. I thought the overall analysis for me was that this wasn't a terrible Barcelona performance with the ball at all. And I thought at times they did get themselves in positions where maybe they could have made chances. But I didn't think there were as many clear-cut chances as he would normally like. You look at the statistics, I think for shots it was up in around about a dozen. I think it was 11 or 12 corners. But apart from 2 or 3 very good saves, and all right, 2 or 3 very good saves is enough to feel like you could have got through. I would agree with you. I thought there was a little bit lacking in that Barcelona performance, even in those periods of the game when the momentum was building in their favour.
Listen, we could have told you before the game that they would have had this possession in the final third. The end result is they were playing one of the poorer teams in the Liga, sitting in the bottom 3 before the game, had only 1 win all season, defensively had lost a barrel load of goals. So we could have sat here before the game and told you exactly what they would have had in terms of possession in the final third. The crux is the end product in the most part, right? And I disagree with Xavi in the sense that I didn't think it was a great performance when you look at the opposition.
Yes.
Now, Granada played one of their better games of the season. There is no doubt about that, particularly against one of the real big boys. But they were allowed to do that. They were allowed to do that, and I think he's searching there a little bit. Not only were they defensively poor, but they were pretty poor for the most part. Bearing in mind the goal for the youngster came about with a ricochet.
Yes.
And then the second goal came about with
Callejon rolling around.
Callejon and one of the other Granada players rolling about trying to win a free kick. So, at the end of the day, they didn't really create that many cast iron opportunities.
Are Barca going to be okay soon?
I suppose it depends how you're defining are they going to be okay. I think they'll be okay in that I think they will continue to be close to the top part of the table. I think they probably will compete for the league, but they certainly don't have the strength that they had last year, or don't appear to, even though actually you look at the team and it should be better. And given the financial constraints that they had and the way that they had to manage the transfer window, I think they actually had a pretty successful transfer window. To be able to bring in Gundogan, to be able to bring in João Felix, to be able to bring in Oriol Romeu and João Cancelo for a total of 3.5 million euros is a really successful transfer window, given all those constraints. But there is still, I think, 1 or 2 gaps in the squad. I think we've seen that they don't really have a number 9 if Lewandowski's not there, although Ferran Torres can play there. I was very struck tonight, sitting behind the goal, watching the touchline, and the fact that the only people who even warmed up, not just the only people who came on, the only people who warmed up were Oriol Romeu and Sergio Roberto. Now, Barcelona had 2 youth team strikers on the bench. Now, I'm not saying you absolutely have to play them, but if you're chasing the game, I was surprised that neither of them even warmed up, that neither of them were even there in case you thought to yourself, you know what, maybe it's worth a try. And then you start wondering, well, why do you bring them? Now, obviously, there's all sorts of arguments about giving them experience and just having the numbers on the bench, but I was surprised by that. And I do think there are 1 or 2 flaws. That said, we should look at this and in the context of Frenkie de Jong being missing, Ronald Araujo coming off cramp the previous game and wasn't supposed to have played tonight, Robert Lewandowski missing, Rafinha missing, Pedri still missing, although he should be back by the time the international break is over. So there are key players missing, and when your squad is relatively short, I don't think it's excessively short, but it's 19 players plus 2 youth teamers, which are Lamine Yamal and Fermin. So it's 21 players, which are a relatively short squad. And so maybe if you have injuries, you've got problems. Will they be all right? Yes. I think they'll get through the Champions League group. I think they will compete.